Welcome back to another episode of Georgia Sports Nation. We got some more Hawks content on the way for you guys today. We're going to be discussing the 106-104 win over the Magic last night. Dejounte Murray, buzzer beater, second game winner in 3 games against the Magic for Dejounte Murray. The other one, obviously, down in Mexico City when the Hawks played them over there. And this one, a mid-ranger coming down, tie game. He ends it. We're also going to be discussing a little bit more of the trade rumor stuff. What should the Hawks' goals be at this deadline? Obviously, Dejounte Murray headlining those rumors, as well as Clint Capella and DeAndre Hunter in a lot of talks as well. We're also going to be previewing the Hawks versus Heat tomorrow down in South Beach. We know what the Heat are. Physical team. The Hawks have got to be ready, and they have a chance to have a 3-game win streak here, something that we've not been able to say for a long time. So without further ado, let's get into it. And what was your overall thoughts on the game from last night and the result?
Mikey, it's funny because I was having flashbacks of when we used to play Orlando back in the late '90s, early 2000s, and it was a back and forth affair, like a heavyweight fight, per se. I mean, nobody really had the advantage, at any point of the game because
it never got above a 7-point lead for either team.
Never. I mean, when you thought somebody was going to take control of the game, then the other team goes on the run and then it'll be like a tennis match. It goes back and forth, and then that's when the Dejounte Murray thing happened. He caught fire in that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So
he really picked it up on a night where Trae Young didn't really have his best work, and the Hawks as a whole turned the ball over so many times this game. And here's a weird stat. I mentioned it on the podcast that you're doing now. Speaking of podcasts, make sure to go check out the Sports Ethos Atlanta Hawks podcast. Me and along with Tim at Tim Hawks 23, we host that podcast now after each game. But we were discussing on it, and look at these stats: 23 turnovers for the Hawks. The Magic shot 12 more shots from the field, 10 more shots from 3, and the same amount of free throws, 22. And the Hawks still come away with a win. That is almost unheard of. In the Pacers game a week ago, when the Hawks got absolutely blown out at home, the Pacers had 27 turnovers, and the Hawks won the possession battle, but the Pacers still got the win. This is the second time in a row, the second time within a week that this has happened, and I've never seen that before in my life. It's just crazy stats in crazy games right now.
Yeah, that's unheard of. I mean, usually when the team that turns the ball over more loses the game. That's what, history tells you. But this year, especially with this team, that
you don't know what you're gonna get from this team right now. But honestly, the possession battle, in my opinion, is just a huge stat that not a lot of people look at. Because normally, when you shoot, whether that's at the free throw line from 3-point range or from 2, when you shoot more than your opponent, you're generally going to win that game because you just have more chances for the ball to go in the bottom of the net. For this time, it didn't work out like that. But this was one of those grinded out wins, like you mentioned before. No team really got in the flow of offense in this game. A lot of half court sloppy turnovers from both teams, and really neither team was in rhythm in the half court offensively. Both teams had to capitalize off fast breaks to really kind of get their offense going.
Yeah, I mean, we had to capitalize off of mental errors and Dominique Wilkins was saying like Orlando, they were not playing any type of good offense in the fourth quarter. So they allowed us to take control of the game later on, during the later parts of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and specifically in the final frame, we've seen the Magic now 3 straight games against the Hawks. These guys can't organize their offense late in games, and it's because of they lack a playmaking point guard. They lack that offensive organizer. Elite teams, they'll always have a good point guard to kind of set that offense and get people into the right spots. You have Damian Lillard on the Bucks, Drew Holiday for the Celtics, even Trae Young for the Hawks. Great job at doing that. But the Magic, yeah, Paolo Banchero is a very good player, and they're missing Franz Wagner, obviously second best player by far. But Banchero in this game, he didn't get to his spots late in that fourth quarter. There was no way of bridging the ball to him in the spots where he wanted to create. Now, he hit that miraculous step back three to tie the game at 104 before Murray's buzzer beater. But that possession in and of itself, was just not organized. This is now 3 games in a row where the Magic can't organize their offense. And in the first game, the Hawks were down 10 in the fourth quarter, came back and won the game in Mexico City. In Orlando, that game went into overtime when the Magic should have handled that win easily. And then in this game, it was back and forth, and the Hawks capitalized on disorganized offense from the Magic again late in the fourth quarter. So definitely a pattern here.
Right. Yeah. It was definitely a pattern. I mean, their youthfulness has showed this year. That's a fact.
Yeah, and Banchero's a very good player, especially in the last game against the Magic. He had 35 points, efficient shooting, or 20. He actually tried 29 on efficient shooting. But in this game, Paolo Banchero, 26 points on 25 shots.
Jeez.
That is what you call good defense. Jalen Johnson had that man uncomfortable pretty much the entire night. That was. Now, Jalen didn't have the best offensive night. He shot 3 of 9 from the field. Not your typical day from Jalen. But he was excellent defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that. I mean, if he can give me that type of effort on defense, then I'll take what he gave me on offense. Because that's what we've been lacking at this whole season. Our defense. So
You need those type of performances, especially on a team like Orlando where they're banged up. Banchero's really the only guy who can initiate his own shot. We needed Jalen to stay out of foul trouble, and they did that. Also in this game, Dejounte Murray. We'll stay away from that buzzer beater in the final quarter real quick, but just an overall good game from Murray. 11 of 18 from the field, 26 points, 5 and 5 on assists and rebounds, added 2 steals as well. He was really the only guy for the Hawks, I felt, who was able to get in rhythm offensively and stay in it for all 4 quarters.
Yeah, that's true. He was consistent all game, and then he caught fire in that fourth quarter, and there was nothing that anybody could do. Because when he gets in the zone, you better just watch out.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, as Brian says here, I was at the game, was a great game. Yeah, for sure. Seeing a buzzer beater is always going to be a hell of a game right there. But I think with Murray, the biggest thing for him has been offensively, at least. He's been great in a lot of first halves, and then would disappear in the second half. He'd take like 4 shots. I had like 2 points in the second half one time, and that wasn't the recipe for winning. But right now, you're seeing over the past week, Dejounte, even with all the trade rumors swirling around him and everything, he's focusing. He's still putting up his numbers on the court. And anybody who tries to say, you must hate Dejounte, you want to be traded. That's not the case for me. Offensively, I don't see a problem with Trae and Dejounte. I really don't. It's more defensively that we know both of them cannot defend the point of attack.
Yeah, they're more of gambling and trying to work off of his defender to go get So point of attack, no, that's not their strong suit. But we need. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, we need point of attack, better point of attack defenders.
Yeah.
We don't have that on our team.
No, and the Magic do. That's why I think, Trae has obviously been a little bit banged up. He's now on the injury report as questionable for tomorrow with an illness. But he had a rough night. 5 of 14 shooting, 1 of 6 from 3 for 18 points. Still had those 12 assists. but eight turnovers from Trey. You don't really see that a lot from him. He's averaging a career high in assist to turnover ratio. So you wouldn't expect that from Trey. But this is kind of why the Hawks went out and got Dejounte. To have a guy when Trey's not at his best, to have a guy who can still create his own shot, organize the offense a little bit. And this was one of those moments where you say, okay, maybe this can kind of work. But then you go look at the other side when you're facing these elite teams who have these elite guards on the defensive end. Trey and Dejounte, for me, long-term, can't really work.
Yeah. That's I mean, offensively, yeah, he can show up on nights that Trey can't or hasn't. But I mean, it keeps coming back to this elephant in the room. I mean, because last night was an outlier of what's been happening on defense end. I mean, we were lights out on defense last.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. And a little bit, to play devil's advocate here, the Magic aren't a good offensive team, especially without Franz Wagner. They're really not. But still, it's to see a good young team. They're above 500, young team. To see you hold them to just 104 points is encouraging, nonetheless.
True. Okay, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate to that too, because we just seen a team that's only won under 10 games.
Yeah, the Wizards.
And they just blew us out. I mean,
that was the worst. I think that was the worst loss of the season. The Wizards.
So I mean, yeah, Orlando's not good on offense, but we have a reoccurring theme of allowing teams that are not good on offense look like all-stars.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I was at the game, the Spurs game on MLK Day, and that was just crazy. I don't know how the Hawks allowed the Spurs to get back into that game when they were up 35 points at halftime. That could have been disastrous if they lost that game.
If they would have lost that game, oh my God! That would have put a fire on.
I can't even imagine. Oh, everything would have been crumbling around this team. It still is, honestly, right now. But yeah, there were a couple sequences in the fourth quarter that I do want to mention, because I think this was when the tide turned to the Hawks' favor. In one possession, the Hawks got 5 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, I think
rebounds with like 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. It ended with the DeJounte Murray 7-foot runner. And after that, I'm like, these guys want this game. They want to win. They're showing effort. And you can see that for sure.
Yeah, the effort was there all night. I mean, that's one thing you cannot take away from them. They were engaged all night. They didn't show lapses of, maybe there was in the third quarter where they started showing a little bit of, the Hawks way of, the death quarter as we call it.
The best part about that game, in my opinion, was that they won they won the third quarter.
Yeah.
29-25, they beat the third quarter. I don't know the last time the Hawks have won a third quarter. It's been a while.
It's been a long time, because usually that's when them, those demons start creeping out of the closet.
Yeah. And so that was one sequence, that offensive rebound. But another one, and this was mind-boggling to me. The Magic go off a long rebound. They got a 3-on-1 fast break. Bogdanovic is the only guy back for the Hawks, and it's Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, and Paolo Banchero on a 3-on-1 fast break. Fultz has the ball. A point guard, a plus playmaking point guard, has the ball. And the Magic can't execute on that break. Bogey stops a 3-on-1 fast break by himself. Now, the Magic still score on that possession. They score 1 point on a free throw from Wendell Carter after he missed the first one. But to only score 1 point in that possession if you're the Magic, that was mind-blowing. But at the moment, it was just, what are you doing, Markelle Fultz? You're a point guard. You need to organize that break. I don't know how they didn't manage to score on that. And
Oh,
that sequence along with the offensive rebounding possession really let me know that the Hawks are locked in and they can take advantage of some of these Orlando miscues.
yeah. I mean, you know what, Mikey? It's so funny because I was sitting here watching it on TV, and I was like, "What the hell are they doing? Like, how do you not, execute a 3-on-1 fast break? I mean,
On bogey.
on both one of the worst defenders that we have, and you still don't execute. I mean, that just goes back to the youthfulness coming out, and they didn't. I don't. You can't explain it. I mean,
yeah, that's definitely one of those plays where I'm sure when they go over that in film, coach is like, all right,
oh,
we practicing this. How did you guys not score on that place? Something like that. But I want to go to Jalen Johnson here for a little bit. We mentioned his defense, but to begin the third quarter, he had one of those highlight moments where he put Goga Bitadze under the rim on a poster. It was one of those signature Jalen Johnson highlight dunks. And those are getting to be regular for Jalen now.
yeah. He had one of his Josh Smith moments.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, Jalen, I'm seeing the development with him as far as decision making on the short roll or on off pocket passes from Trey or Dejounte. It's so good. You saw early in this game, at least 6 points he spoon fed to Clint Capella after getting the ball, driving it to rim, and then he laid it off, dished it under the rim for Clint Capella, easy dunk. But other times you see in like the third quarter, Jalen takes it all the way to the rim, powers home for a dunk. So these type of things where Jalen's obviously blessed with a ton of athleticism, but he's not going to be able to dunk it on everyone every single possession. So he's got to know when to dump that off, when to dish it, when to kick it out for a three to the corner. But I think you're seeing that development more and more as the Hawks experiment with the short roll.
Yeah. The hockey assists, they those are there, and then he's starting to. His brain is starting to slow down from the game because when you come into the game at first, everything seems everything's on. Like, so once the game starts slowing down, then you can start making better decisions, and those hockey assists are coming to fruition.
Yeah, I think you're seeing that from Jalen for sure. One thing that the Hawks have really struggled with, and it's weird. The Hawks are bottom 5 in defensive rebounding, okay?
Yeah.
But the Hawks are top 6 in rebounding overall. What? How does that make any sense?
Oh my God.
How does that make any sense? But Clint Capella is still a good offensive rebounder, even though he's not what he once was. Onyeka Okongwu's a good offensive rebounder. Jalen Johnson's a great defensive rebounder. Still getting more on the offensive boards, but that's just something that weird for me at the Hawks after I looked up that stat and gave the Hawks a lot of trouble in this game. In my opinion, the first half, at halftime, it was 49-51 Magic. The only reason the Magic, in my opinion, were in this game was because they just kept getting offensive rebounds. Goga Bitadze, the Hawks had 11. No, sorry, not the Hawks. The Magic had 11 offensive rebounds compared to the Hawks 3 in the first half. Only the first half.
That's crazy. I remember on one occasion they had like at least 3 to 4 offensive rebounds just off of one miss. It was crazy. I mean, we were right there, but we couldn't get the rebound. So
yeah, the defensive stop doesn't end until you get the rebound. And Clint Capella, speaking of rebounds, you know how many rebounds Clint Capella had at halftime at?
None.
A donut in the rebounding category for Clint Capella at halftime. I'm not even sure that's happened to him in his career. I'd love to check that. That's great.
That's horrendous, man. Like you cannot. That cannot happen. Period. You cannot be that damn tall and have that less of rebounds at halftime. I mean, I just want to paint this picture. we will allow that to skate by, but we'll have a problem with what Trey does. Per se, like they'll have all this animosity towards Trey, but what Clint does, he'll get all the passes in the world. I don't understand it.
But I think something that Quinn Snyder really has to be given credit for here was ultimately he closed with Onyeka Okongwu, who's definitely the better center in this game. Okongwu ended this game with 15 points, 9 rebounds, also had a block, 7-12 from the floor. Capella, on the other hand, he was 6 of 6 from the field. You don't really see that much from Capella, but 12 points, 3 rebounds. Okongwu was definitely outplaying him, and he closed the game with Okongwu. A lot of Hawks fans have been clamoring for Quinn Snyder to adjust that closing lineup, and I think one of the reasons why he hasn't is because of this trade deadline, and the Hawks might be trying to maximize the most value they can get out of Clint Capella. Now, Jake Fisher reported that Capella's value is very low. The league probably sees him as only a backup center now, but the Hawks, I think, are still trying to extract the maximum amount of value they can get. Because you know what's weird to me? Last season, Quinn Snyder adjusted his rotations so many times during a game. In the playing game against Miami, he closed with Bogey and Sadiq Bey, 2 non-starters in that game. Against the Celtics in the 6-game series, Onyeka Okongwu played more minutes than Clint Capella that entire series if you look at the total minutes. But now you were seeing him close with the exact same lineup most of the time. I think a lot of it has to do with trade stuff, honestly, because there's no way everybody can say, "Oh, great job, Quinn Snyder," and closing with the lineup that's hot last year, and then goes back to this year, it's the complete opposite. Something had to have changed for that to happen.
Let's hope that's the thing, because I would hate for that, for him to to go away from what was working last year to this year. You're just doing something completely different, and we're suffering for it. I would hate that for that to be the case.
Yeah, so we'll see why that is the case, but I do think some of it has to do with the trade deadline. And speaking of trade deadline, I do want to discuss. I didn't get your thoughts on some of these deadline guys. What is your overall thoughts on what the Hawks should be doing at the deadline? What is your ultimate goal for them come February
8th? It really depends on what do we see our ceiling as. Do people see us as still making the playoffs or the play-in game?
I think the play-in for sure. I think the Hawks still make the play-in easily, in my opinion.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then we need to. I don't. It's like on one hand, I do want to make some moves to at least get better, but then on the other hand, I just want to scrap it and start all over. Like if we can, convince Trey to to stay. Okay, then if not, then let's just scrap all of it, do what we can, get back what will work, and then just rip the Band-Aid off. Basically.
So are you saying rip the Band-Aid off as far as trading the whole roster, or still keeping Trey and Jalen?
Well, if we can keep Trey and Jalen and still start over, but not fully start over, then okay, I'm for that. Like just get everybody else.
Yeah, for me, I think, and that's why a lot of people when I speak on some of these, like We Talk Hawks, for example, as well, with Damon over there on YouTube. Make sure to go check him out if you haven't. But a lot of people will say, "Man, this is people are hating Dejounte for no reason. Like he came here, he's still done. Look at his offense, 25 and 5, like 40% shooting, 49% shooting from the field. Like he's had a good offensive year. There's no doubt about that. But for me, for me, for this team to have long-term success with Trey, because the organization has told us, not my opinion, the organization has told us that Trey and Jalen are the untouchables. So they are building around those two. If Dejounte can be traded for a guy, in my opinion, like Quentin Grimes or somebody that is a young NBA-ready player who's a great point of attack defender, who can shoot the three ball a little bit, can handle the rock, they just need a solid 3 and D player at that 2 next to Trey. I think this team can honestly be a lot better just because that upgrade in defense is huge. Now, obviously the Hawks would be sacrificing a little bit of offense, losing Dejounte and bringing in a guy like Grimes if that happens. But I think that's a risk you have to take because you're not going to win a championship being a bottom 5 defense. It's just not going to happen.
No, that's not going to happen. I mean, you're not going to go to the playoffs just, teetering in the middle. That's not going to happen. As well as, like you said, being bottom 5 on defense. The two can't coexist. That cannot happen. We cannot, meander in the middle, but also be bottom 5 on defense. That's not
for me. I think the Hawks are a walking top 7 defense, in my opinion, with Trey Young. They're going to be. That's just how it goes. But I think they can sacrifice that. Maybe make it top 10, top 12, and if they can be competent on defense, maybe just get to the 20 or the high teens in defense. I think that would really bode well long term for this team as far as success. That's because they can score the ball. We already know this. Yeah. It's just preventing guys from getting to the rim is the biggest thing.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've all seen on so many occasions where the guy will bring up the ball and go straight to the basket.
Yeah.
I mean, that on the championship team, that cannot happen. Like we gotta, that has to stop. Like you cannot just open up the lane like it's the Red Sea.
With Dejounte seemingly being the most kind of trade-ready player and most rumored player on the roster to be traded, what offer or what team have you seen that you like as far as a package in return?
I don't. I'm not. I will be honest. I don't know. Man, whatever the team wants to do, or whatever trade gets us, closer to where we want to go, then I'm for it.
Yeah. Okay. Because I think the organization right now, a lot of what they want to do, it seems like they want to retool this roster with role players around Trey and Jalen, and then take a swing next year. I think that's what their mentality is. But for me, I've seen a lot of fans saying, "Oh, another salary dump, man. It's all classic for the Hawks. They made a mistake. They need a salary dump money so they can retool and get some picks." But for me, I think the only guy that Hawks fans should expect to be salary dumped is Clint Capella.
Yeah.
If that happens, that's the only guy. DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin, Bogey, if he's traded. Sadiq Bey hasn't really been mentioned in a lot of trades, which I don't get. He's an expiring deal. I would think a lot of teams are coveting him. But, he's a shooter who can't shoot right now for 2 months. Sadiq. And he's horrible defense. In my opinion, he's the worst defender on the team. So, so Sadiq's market may be pretty low right now. But, yeah, AJ Griffin, Bogey, Sadiq, DeJounte, DeAndre, all those guys I just mentioned, there should be legitimate good returns for those. And if they're not, the Hawks front office definitely can deserve some flaming for probably not doing the greatest job handling some of these guys.
Yeah, deservingly so. Because for so to speak, a 6 man of the year, maybe we should be able to get something back for him. Something.
In my opinion, I think Bogey, if they do end up trading him, I don't think they will, but if they do end up trading him, it's got to be something close to close to like 2 first-round picks, or you get a young player back in a first. It's got to be something like that because I mean he's having one of the best years of his career. He's in a little bit of a shooting slump right now, but in my opinion, the clear 6th man of the year candidate, him and Malik Monk, really for me, it's a 2-man race right now. That's it.
Yeah,
and so you've got to if you're the Hawks, you've got to look at that and say this guy, if we do trade him, got to be for a good return or a return that will set you up well for the future.
Exactly. It has to set us up well for the future. Not this year, maybe not even just next year, but beyond that, 26. But it has to be something that's gonna help us now and in the future. So
yeah. And another product of the trade rumor and the selling / retooling, whatever you want to call it, the Hawks are doing. Another product of that is the potential of more young guys getting more playing time. Kobe Buffkin right now is dominating in the G League. He's going crazy. He's been impressive down there. I do think come second half of the season, after the deadline, the Hawks will find a consistent role for Kobe Buffkin. If Dejounte has moved, I do believe that to be the case. Even if they do that Grimes deal with the Knicks, or they do end up doing a Lakers deal where they get Austin Reeves, which does not seem likely. Yeah. If that happens, I still think Buffkin will get backup point guard minutes. With Dejounte gone, he'll get the backup point guard minutes. Obviously, you shift Bogey down to the 2. And if Bogey's gone, you could just play Buffkin at the 2. So off the bench. So he'll get, I think, a 20-plus minute bench role regardless at some point here in the second half of the season. I hope so, at least, because the Hawks organization is really high on him. And there's been rumors that he's been labeled as an untouchable as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have to see what these young players have, not just in the G League, but up here, because it's the same game, but it's 2 different levels. Yeah. It's just like being in baseball where you play great A, AA, AAA, but then you get to the big leagues and now you don't perform. So we have to see how our young players are going to set us up for the future.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to what I want to talk about next, because speaking of seeing what you have, right now, Onyeka Okongwu is averaging low 20 minutes for his career. He just signed a team-friendly extension this offseason, and you need to see what he can give you as your starting center, or if as a power forward, if that's in the Hawks' plans. I mean, for me, I think he's still a center, but they're playing him a little bit at the 4 now, depending on who they move Clint Capella for. He could play at the 4 more. But for me, you need to see what you have on Onyeka Okongwu if you're the Hawks in 30 minutes a night. That it should be apart from moving DJ, because that seems like the number 1. Number 2 priority should be either moving Clint to the bench if they can't trade him, or if they do trade him, start Onyeka, give him 30 minutes a night. It needs to happen.
Yeah, that has to happen. I mean, because how do you know what he can do if you don't try it?
Yeah. Well, something that I don't understand is some fans have just like, man, Capella's Okongwu's trash. He can't grab a rebound, but he's playing 21 minutes a night. How do you expect him to grab so many rebounds while Clint Capella is playing 27, 28 and grabbing 13 boards? I mean, Capella, by the way, is one of the top 4 rebounders in the league, in my opinion. So it's no slight on him. But Okongwu is only getting 21 minutes. How do you expect him to grab more than 5, 6 rebounds in that time? I don't know how.
I mean, he can't get into it. Nobody, I don't care who it is, nobody, no player can get into a rhythm playing just 20 minutes a game. That's
especially
not
off the bench.
Especially off the bench.
And you see there are some stats that say, the net ratings of different lineups for the Hawks of pairs. Onyeka Okongwu and Jalen Johnson are in one of the few pairs of lineups that are in the positive in net rating for the Hawks this season. Jalen definitely plays better with Onyeka on the floor, in large part due to offensively, Okongwu can space the floor a little bit more. He doesn't always have to stay in the lane in the dunker spot. He can kick it out to a corner 3, shoot the midi, and that's why Jalen has so many more driving lanes and opportunities when Onyeka's on the floor. So I think, and the biggest reason why Quinn Snyder takes Trae Young and Jalen Johnson out of the game in the first quarter so easily or so much and puts it back in like the 3-4 minute mark is to play with Onyeka Okongwu because they sub in right when he does most of the time. So that's one thing you can kind of already see the Hawks are kind of shaping up to see what their future wants to be there.
Yeah, well, you have to. I mean, because you can't just, you can't come out with these trade rumors and stuff like that, and then just stick to, your normal five, or without DeAndre, and then not see what you have and who can play with who. If, so to speak, this person gets traded, that person you have to know.
Yeah, and I was going to say something about Okongwu. But, yeah. So lately, and especially against the Magic, they played Okongwu at the 4 along with Clint Capella. What have you thought of those lineups with the Hawks experimenting with that for the first time really in Onyeka's career playing the 4?
He's shown, growth, playing at the 4. That's for sure. But we all know that, his main position is, playing center. But we're probably gonna have, lineups where he's gonna have to, go into that play the 4, so I'm glad that, he's that we're seeing it now. So
yeah, because Capella, as much as what he's done in the Hawks uniform in 2021, that was what he did was top 5 defensive player of the year candidate. He was sensational 2 years ago, in that now 3 years ago, in that playoff run and that regular season in general. But now Capella's not that same guy that he once was, and unfortunately, I think the front office might have just held on to him a bit too long. They needed to, after that 2021 run. You see what you got in Capella, and the next season doesn't do that well. I think you should start to put him in trade rumors and look to trade him after that next season. Just because Capella now you see his value is just down in the dirt. That's what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah.
So it's just a kind of a mishandling of the situation, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think they should have got rid of him in that 2022 season. Because he, like you said, he's shown his ceiling of what he can do. And you have to see what Onyeka can do playing at, in a full center role. So
yeah, there's, and also I think a lot of the reason why the Hawks are doing as much as they're going to do at this deadline, or rumored to do, is so that they can focus on Jalen Johnson. Dejounte Murray is easily the second option on this team right now, but I think they need to make Jalen the second option after this deadline. They need to see what he can do, start developing that early next to Trae. Clint Capella, he clogs up the lane a lot for Jalen on offense. He's going to go. Hunter's a different case. He doesn't really affect Jalen that much. Obviously, Hunter's a great backline organizer, good communicator on defense. But he is also in trade rumors. That his knee problems are well documented. So we'll see what the Hawks do. But this deadline is going to be crazy. Regardless if they don't make any moves or not, the reactions to not making any moves will be insane. The reaction from Hawks fans, either way, if they go and salary dump some players, if they get a good return, or if they just do nothing. All 3 of those reactions, it'll be interesting to see from Hawks fans for sure. So if you were to pick, and before we move on to previewing the Hawks and the Heat tomorrow, if you were to pick either to clear money, to try to make a couple win now moves, quote, or to kind of retool and try to go at it really next year and maybe make the 9th or 10th seed this year, which one of those 3 avenues would you go with?
I would go with the I mean, even though I know the Hawks fans don't want to hear this, being there, we will go into the play-in again, but I would go with the third option. Make some win now and well, it'll be a combination. Win now, and you'll have some young pieces where you can work with and see what you can do next year, as well as playing for the play-in game.
Yeah, I think that's the best course of action for the Hawks. Obviously, salary dumping is something that fans want to see, but in my opinion, if the Hawks' goal is to salary dump and try to go after Siakam, for example, if he doesn't re-sign with the Pacers or other big name free agents, unfortunately, this is the Atlanta Hawks. Big name free agents haven't really come here in the past.
No.
So I think that what you said there, see what you can at the deadline, get what you can for Murray, for Hunter, for Capella, especially those three guys, Bay as well, and then see if you can get some future guys or draft picks to kind of reshape, retool, and get ready to kind of go at it one more time for next year. And the Hawks will still make the plan. I'm pretty confident in that. But who knows? They might surprise everybody and get through the playoffs. You never know with the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, one thing for sure in this NBA season, there has been a lot of parity, everywhere. So they could surprise everybody.
Look at what the Thunder are doing. Look at what the Timberwolves are doing over there out in the West. So yeah, anything can happen for sure. But we got the Miami Heat tomorrow. I hate facing the Miami Heat. The least favorite team for my Hawks to go against in the NBA, in my opinion. What's one key to the game for you that you really need that you'll be keyed on watching this contest?
Well, one thing I want to see Jalen Johnson. He has to be a wrecking crew. I think in order for us to win this game, we're gonna have to get out and go. We gotta run because when they set up, it's almost like a brick wall. So we have to. Yeah, we gotta go. So
he keeps doing it with these players. They bring in guys like Jaime Jaquez have contributed really early in his career. They've got good defenders over there. So the Hawks are going to need to push the pace. Jalen, if you get a rebound, you got to push that pace and not make the defense set up. And this actually brought me back to one point I wanted to say in the Magic win. Quinn Snyder, he tried to call a timeout in that last possession after Banchero made the three. In the end, he changed his mind. It's like, nah, never mind. And Dejounte had the ball. He goes down there, wins the game. I think that was something that gets overlooked. Because when you call a timeout, a good defensive team like Orlando, they can get set. And I don't know if that was the ideal matchup for the Magic to put Dejounte to put Markelle Fultz on Murray, but regardless, Murray wins it right there. And similar to the Heat, you don't want them setting their defense, so you got to push the pace. Number two, second key for me is got to be just get ready for a physical matchup. These guys are always going to push the limit and making the refs make a decision. Is it going to be a soft whistle? Going to be or is it going to be a soft whistle or is it going to be a hard whistle? If it's a hard whistle, you gotta stay the course. Don't let the refs get to your head and try to play some more physical brand of basketball that the Heat do. Obviously, we know the Hawks don't really do that much, but this is one of those games where you're going to have to match that activity. And if the refs don't give it to you, so be it. But there's always that variable to worry about as well.
Yeah, I mean, got to play through it. I mean, so what if you don't get this whistle? Okay, on to the next play. Go play through it. I mean, you can't allow the refs to dictate what happened. What the game is going to play out to be. You have to dictate that.
And third key for me is going to be rebounding. The Heat are not a big team. They start, undersized center with Bam Adebayo. Jimmy Butler plays the 4 for them most of the time when he's healthy. He hasn't been healthy for most of the year. But Jalen is going to have a huge size advantage. If they play Onyeka at the 4, he's going to have a size advantage. Capella has a size advantage on Bam Adebayo. So these guys are going to have to get busy on the boards. And the more rebounds the Hawks get, the more they can get into transition from defensive stops. So, it kind of all goes hand in hand with defensive stops leading to buckets in transition and playing fast.
Yeah. And then also we have to beat them up going to the paint. We have to. I mean, we can't play their game and just shooting threes all. I mean, I want us to shoot threes, but especially in transition, we have to get to the cup.
For sure. But yeah, any final thoughts before we wrap it up there?
I'll say just play your game. Don't go down there thinking that we gotta outscore them. Like we gotta put up this immaculate number. No, just go down there, play your game, get the win, and then on to the next game. That's it.
Yeah. Hawks' next game after tomorrow is a back-to-back on Saturday. So there's a chance. The Heat are really banged up right now. There is a chance for the Hawks to win 3 consecutive games here for the first time in a while. So let's see if they can do it. But without further ado, thanks for listening and watching this episode of Georgia Sports Nation. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. We'll see you guys next week, Thursday, 5:30. Sorry about the late start time tonight. I had some technical difficulties, but we should be back next week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.